Good morning, friends. So we had a great discussion yesterday about our book, Who Cloned the President. And so far we discussed chapters 1 through 4. We read 5 and 6 together. So I'm not really going to review much of anything today. I'm just going to read chapters 7 and 8 today. And then tomorrow we're going to get together and discuss 7 and 8 and then finish up the book, read chapters 9 and 10. So by the end of tomorrow, we'll be done with the book. Okay, but I'm going to continue with Who Cloned the President, Chapter 7, which is called Rescued. Hey, thanks, Mr. President. Marshall folded the paper and put it in his pocket. Casey stared at the president. Now she didn't know who was the president and who was the clone. If she helped the wrong one, who knew what would happen? Feeling panicky, Casey studied the two lookalikes. The man in the blue suit was right-handed, but Casey knew the real president was left-handed. What's wrong, Casey? Marshall said. You look like you swallowed a spider. Casey shook her head. No, but I just thought of something. She smiled up at the president. Sir, I need you to go back to the other room. Why? The president asked. He looked confused. To buy us some time, she explained. If anyone looks in, they'll know you're not there. But if you stuff pillows under the covers, they'll think you're in bed. The president hesitated, then said, Good idea. I'll be right back. Casey watched him leave the room. When he was gone, she grabbed Marshall. Follow him, she whispered. As soon as he goes into that room, lock the door. Marshall's mouth fell open. Huh? Why, Casey? 'Cause he's the clone. Then she pointed to the man tied in the chair. This is the real president. So here's Casey and Marshall with who I will now call the president in the pajamas. And this is the president in the suit. Because we don't know which one's the president. Okay. So the man in the chair mumbled behind his gag, nodding his head furiously. Now go! Casey shoved Marshall out the door. Marshall gave Casey a look, but he hurried down the dark hall. Casey gently removed the tape from the struggling man's mouth. Water! He gasped. Casey looked around the room. There was no water, but she grabbed a can of soda and held it to the man's lips. After he took a few gulps, Casey put the can down. Even his pajamas and robe, this man looked exactly like the president. But so did the other one. If she was wrong, she was making a terrible mistake. Then Casey had an idea. How did you earn money to help your family? I sold eggs to our neighbors, he said. How many brothers and sisters do you have? The man grinned. There's Patricia, Trudy, Tommy, Roger, and the baby is Edward. That makes 5. Anyone might know that, Casey realized. How many merit badges did you earn in the Scouts? She asked. The man blinked. That was a long time ago. 12. Why? Just then, Marshall rushed back into the room. He's locked in, he said. I hope you're right about which one is which. Marshall, don't worry. This is the real President Thornton, Casey said, grinning. Excuse me, the president said, but could you untie me? Oh, sorry, sir. Casey took out her knife and cut the ropes. Thanks. The president stood up and rubbed his hands and ankles. I expected the FBI or CIA, but you two look a little young for agents, he said. Who are you? And what are you doing in the White House in the middle of the night? Casey and Marshall introduced themselves and explained again. The president laughed. My mother always told me that being left-handed would make me stand out. Marshall pulled the folded paper out of his pocket. He looked at the clone's signature, then ripped it to pieces. He picked up another piece of paper. Sir, could I please have your autograph? He asked the real president. Sure, but can it wait? We need to get out of here. He glanced around the room. Casey, did I hear you say something about your mother's apartment? Could we go there? Casey nodded. Won't Mom be surprised when she sees who I brought home? The president led Casey and Marshall down the corridor. His slippers flip-flopped on the hard floor. He took them back to the kitchen and stopped in front of the freezer. We're going into a freezer? Marshall said. The president smiled. This one is special, he said. He twirled the combination lock a few times. The door popped open. Suddenly, Casey heard voices. Sir, someone's coming, she hissed to the president. And now, Chapter 8. It's called Secret Passageway. Here's a picture you'll see. Okay. The president pulled Casey and Marshall into the cold freezer. Hide, he said as the door closed. He unscrewed a light bulb on the ceiling, then disappeared into the shadows. Marshall jumped behind a stack of hamburger boxes. Casey clambered over the boxes and crouched next to him. The door to the freezer opened. Light fell onto the floor, and Casey saw 2 shadows appear. "Hey, Blinky," a man's voice said. "Someone left the lock open. Now's our chance to pig out." The two shadows came closer. Horror-struck, Casey realized she could see her breath. She clapped both hands over her nose and mouth. Next to her, Marshall did the same. One of the men stopped only inches from Casey. She saw a pair of legs and dark leather shoes. Casey dared to look up from behind the boxes. The man standing there had been in the room with that awful guy in the white coat. "Nah, it's all vegetables and meat," the man said. "No good stuff." The feet turned and left. The door shut behind them. Casey began to breathe again. The president stepped out from behind some hanging beef. "Marshall, Casey, are you okay?" he asked. Just a little cold," Marshall said. "Come on," President Thornton said, walking to the rear of the chamber. At the end of the freezer, the president shoved aside a few sides of beef. Behind them was a blank metal wall. Then the president said, "Zachary Thornton," in a clear voice. Casey heard a whirring sound, and the wall slid sideways. In its place was a door. The president punched in a code on the keypad by the door. The door opened. The kids followed him into a dark tunnel. "This is so cool," Casey said. "This secret passageway was built a long time ago," the president explained. "I think Teddy Roosevelt used it once." "Where does it go?" Marshall asked, peering down the dim tunnel. "You'll see, but let's hurry," the president said. The tunnel sloped downhill for a while, then up. At the end, they climbed stairs leading to a door. This one had a steel bar locking it from the inside. The president slid the bar out of its brackets. Behind the bar was a hole. The president reached into the hole and pulled out a tube. "Periscope," he said, putting his eye to the tube. After a moment, he said, "All clear. Let's go." When the president pulled the door open, Casey saw streetlights and cars whizzing by. "We're on Pennsylvania Avenue," she said. "That's right," the president said, "just outside the White House fence." They stepped through a narrow door onto grass. Casey looked back. The door was hidden in a hollow concrete pillar that supported the gate to the White House grounds. When the president closed the door again, it disappeared. "We can walk to my apartment," Casey said. "It's not that far." The president shook his head. "No, a taxi would be faster. I'm not exactly dressed for walking in February." He stepped to the curb, put two fingers into his mouth, and whistled loudly. A taxi appeared and slowed down. The driver took one look, then sped away. The president laughed. "I must look pretty strange," he said. His next whistle brought another cab. This one stopped. "Where to?" the cabbie said, as the three climbed into the back seat. She didn't seem to care about the man in his bathrobe and slippers. 500 3rd Street, Casey said. "Got it." The cabbie pulled away with a squeal of tires. She looked in the rearview mirror. "Anyone ever tell you look just like the president?" she asked. "You could be his clone." Casey looked at Marshall and President Thornton. They all burst out laughing. "What?" said the cabbie. "What's so funny?" 10 minutes later, the cab pulled up in front of Casey and Marshall's building. The president reached for his wallet. "Oops." His face turned red. "I forgot that I'm in my pajamas. Sorry, but I don't have any money on me." Casey rattled the money in her pack. "I do." She counted out the fare and gave the driver a tip. "Have a great night," the cab driver said before she zoomed away. Marshall rang the bell in their building. A sleepy-eyed, yawning Donald came to the door. He woke right up when he saw Casey and Marshall standing in the street. Donald opened the door and let the three in. "What are you kids doing out at midnight?" "Research for our reports," Casey said, heading for the elevators. "Oh, by the way," she added over her shoulder, "this is the president." And that's the end of chapter 8. So there's a couple questions for you to answer from chapter 7 and 8. Again, we will meet tomorrow to discuss 7 and 8 and to finish up the book together. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We are here to help. All right, so we'll see you soon. Have a great day.